What's good, YouTube? Welcome back. Dub Digital here, bringing you the best macroeconomic news, the best crypto news every day, all the time. I'm like obsessed with it. All right, so let's move on. We got Zero Hedge here, dated, looks like today, July 7th, 2020. The BIS Innovation Hub, the gradual march to central bank digital currency continues to advance. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what the BIS is, okay, so there's kind of like three tiers of central banks, right? A lot of people think there's just the Federal Reserve and there's only one in America. Well, there's a lot of Federal Reserves. In essence, they're called central banks for different countries. They control different countries' banking systems. The Federal Reserve is kind of like the head honcho central bank because we have something called the world reserve currency. It's the dollar, and that's like the one paper currency everyone looks to. Right? It's typically the strongest because it's what everyone falls back on when other smaller, not as valuable or stable currencies start to falter, like Zimbabwe. People can always, use dollar because it's globally recognized. And if you've ever been to other countries, sometimes they do that. But I'm digressing here. So basically, there's a central bank, three layers of central bank. One is like the national layer of the central bank, what we would call the Fed in America. The second layer is the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, which oversees pretty much all the other national central banks on the lower rung, which would be like the Bank of Japan, the Federal Reserve, so on and so forth. IMF is a one governing body that oversees them and gives guidance banking wise and finance wise. And then above them, and it's getting kind of ridiculous, but this is the way it really is, there's the BIS, which is the Bank for International Settlements. The Bank of International Settlements is based, I believe, in Geneva, Switzerland, or is it Basel? It might be Basel, Switzerland. And they pretty much give and dictate to all the banks in the entire world what's the definition of tier 1 capital, tier 2 capital, tier 3 capital. Now, these different tiers of capital are just basically asset classes that have been deemed by the BIS as better than, right? So right now, the only forms of tier 1 capital from my recollection in the world today is T-bills, which is US Treasury bonds, which is synonymous to the dollar, and then also, I believe, it's gold. Right, so basically the BIS sits at the top of the pyramid and flows down, dictates instructions to the lower banks, and that's how all banks work in unison and tandem on a global scale. But sorry, I kind of got off on that one, but I think it's very important to understand how all this feeds into itself. All right, so let's start the article here. It says the BIS refers to the Innovation Hub as a medium-term project that compromises three main elements: identify and develop in-depth insights into critical trends in technology affecting central banking, develop public goods and technology space geared towards improving the function of the global financial system, and serve as a focal point for a network of central bank experts on innovation. So basically, we have the biggest bank in the world that controls all the central banks and all the central banks that control all the countries, but the BIS is pretty much has a team together that's acting like a research and development group that's going around and pulsing all the ongoing technologies in the fintech space or the financial technology space. And they're taking the best of the best and implementing it into their future payment system. We know the Federal Reserve already has an alternative payment system in the work called FedNow that's supposed to come out like 2022 or 2025. I don't think people are going to wait for that long, but they're in the works. Now we find out that the BIS is also doing research, right? So the central banks, don't let them fool you. They're all over blockchain. They're picking their technologies right now, and they're going to roll out a second system in parallel with the centralized systems, right? So it says the initial phase of the project saw hubs opened up in Switzerland, Hong Kong, and Singapore. That's huge because look, Switzerland, Hong Kong, and Singapore are all financial hubs. Switzerland is a financial hub. You've probably heard of Swiss banks. Everyone keeps their money there, so Uncle Sam can't look down your shorts. Hong Kong is the Western financial hub into the East, pretty much, right? It sits off mainland China, has different rules, has different privacy laws. The US likes to use it because it's more westernized than mainland China and they have more sovereignty. And then also Singapore. Singapore is a financial hub as well, very westernized. Lots of international business is conducted there and very crypto friendly. Okay, the BIS now moved into the second phase, which they warned was going to happen when the hub first launched. Accompanying the release of this year's annual economic report, the institution announced that the hub is expanding to new locations in both Europe and North America. So hey, I mean, look, biggest bank in the world controls all the banks under it. It's going in every continent, hitting every major financial hub and going to every continent, right? So Uh, that's however you feel about this could be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, if you're in the Ripple camp, this is fine with you. You're down with banks. But this topic in terms of centralizing payment systems, yes, it big institutions usually have the good amount of an investable capital to develop these technologies to a T. They have the network and the reach to get them deployed and used fast by people. But the problem is, and because you're here, is centralization, right? This is probably not going to be a decentralized network. In fact, it definitely isn't. The reason banks have so much money is because they they control everything. They make you do something in a certain way and then they charge you an obscene fee. There's no way it's going to be decentralized. Okay. New centers will expand our reach significantly and help create a global force for fintech innovation. Again, just emphasize the purpose of the group. And then lastly, or not lastly, but if CBDCs are to fulfill their purpose and promise as a new means of payment, their design and implications deserve close study and consideration. The BIS will continue supporting central banks in their CBDC research and design efforts through the new BIS Innovation Hub, its committees, and the broader analytical work. I mean, what else do you got to hear? It's the writing's on the wall. And then just to emphasize my point even more, the IMF managing director, Kristalina Georgia Vienna, or I totally killed that, but Kristalina said that digital is a big winner in the crisis and that it accelerated the digital transformation by 2 or 3 years. Right? And they're talking about the COVID-19 crisis. And that's true. It's totally true. People cannot go physically where they need to, but yet they still have to because life moves on. The only way to do that safely in a digital world is through digital tools. And there's been a large chunk of the population that has not jumped in to the digital age as yet, as in using internet and all the services it offers. Telecommuting companies are now being forced to really figure out telecommuting, Zoom, document sharing apps. The COVID-19 crisis is making everyone realize that one, there's a lot of excess in daily life that is outdated and doesn't have to be done, time that doesn't have to be spent, money that doesn't have to be spent, and two, people who thought that they could just get away with not getting up to the curve, getting up to speed, they're mistaken because their life is put on hold if you don't. And people, when faced with a challenge, will tend to try and adapt because that's fight or flight. That's just like Darwinism. When it's either you adapt or you die. That's the way nature is, and that's the way it is now. You got to figure out how to make money online. You just got laid off. You got to find out how to make money online. It's either you get exposed to a perceived threat, whether the COVID-19 virus is real or not. That's not the point. It's whether you as an individual adapt to the digital economy because of a perceived threat. Because a lot of people think COVID-19 is real, and hell, it could be. I just don't think we have enough evidence to know for sure. All right, guys. So thanks a lot. Interesting here. I'll drop the link down in the description so you guys can read it. Dub Digital here, bringing you macro trends, cryptocurrency news on the daily, every day, with that fire. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later.